Absolutely beautiful. Thank you, Gary. So good. So we're in the Lenten season, the season of Lent. The feasting and the fasting and the feasting is the reference in our Unity booklet. So it's about fasting from fear and feasting on faith. Would you agree? Yes. And fear is my favorite acronym for fear. I was raised in Unity with false evidence appearing real, which is great, but it sounds very clinical, really, to me. You know, here's another one. Forgetting everything's all right. Right? Just when I forget everything's all right, I just go, woo, right? And that's what's taking place right now. There are things happening on the earth plane that there's an opportunity for us to hold to the truth, and it's causing all of us to notice what we're afraid of and to have a way of coping with that. In Unity, we call it practicing the presence. Yes? To know the truth and be set free. So there's a hand mudra. Do you guys like mudras? It's kind of fun to have a hand that you can hold during meditation or prayer, something you can do. Probably not while you're driving because it involves two hands. I'm just thinking. But this particular one I love because it's that there is an earth plane. Just use your left hand if you would. Your dominant hand, your least dominant hand, and create a space like this. It's not a spectator sport being here, you guys. It's interactive, so come on, right? Give me an earth plane. And then what we do with our other hand is this is actually the first principle of Unity. God is. What else does this mean? Great. What else? Thumbs up, like, right, in our social media. It means all is well. Tudo bem. Right, in Portuguese. So what we do is we take the earth plane that is essentially flat, and we place our fist with a thumbs up on top of it, like this. You get the sense that there's an antenna that is connecting you with the divine? When we hold our hands, we're holding our hands actually just below the heart to support ourselves in this time. That yes, we are here to be on the earth. We've agreed to be in human bodies, and at the same time we know that God is the one presence and one power in our lives, and we are choosing to connect with that presence and power. Do you like this mudra? Isn't it great? So anytime in a heartbeat, in a nanosecond, when you forget everything's all right, or someone around you is professing otherwise, you can simply go into this posture. Not in a way to make them wrong at all or to judge that they just don't know because they too are afraid, but to hold the space yourself. Jesus said, if I be lifted up, will draw all men unto me, will draw all women unto me, all children unto me. And that uplifts us in that moment and others as well. It's not like that's a formula. You go in and go, I'm going to overlay this on top of that, whatever's going on. It's just a way of tapping into the divine. For you, beloved, are a living enterprise of God. Do you like that word? I am a living enterprise of God. Say that with me together. I am a living enterprise of God. Now, I looked up enterprise because I wondered what I was saying when I made that affirmation. And an enterprise is a project or an undertaking, typically that's difficult and requires some effort to move through. Would you say still, I am a living enterprise of God? Yeah, we are not complete. But today, and I want to just notice before I go on any further, today is, what's the date today? March 15th, and in 2 days it's going to be St. Patrick's Day, so I want to lighten it up a bit with a joke. Can I have a joke with you? Yeah. Right. So Paddy's driving along, and he's got to be at this event. He knows it's going to be held, actually, and so he's seeking a parking place, but he can't find a parking place. So he says, Lord, please help me find a parking place right now, right in front of the event, Lord. And I tell you what, if you give me a parking place, I'll go to Mass every Sunday for the rest of my life. Oh, and I'll throw something else in. I'll stop drinking Irish whiskey, Lord. As of today, the rest of my life, parking place, please, Lord. Just at that moment, a miracle occurred. Someone came out of a parking place right in front of Paddy. He pulled in and said, "Never mind, Lord, I found one." How many times do we do that, right? We think it's someplace else or something else, and it's always that God is the answer for us. Whether it's, I have parking angels or whatever the story is that we tell ourselves, there is always a wonderful good, a greater good taking place in our lives. It's grace. Say that with me. The liquidity of God is moving at the same exact rate, the same pace, the same percentage as the liquidity of God was moving in you months ago before you heard anything about a virus. The most viral thing that's taking place in each and every one of us is the activity of God is fresh every moment of every day, and there's nothing we need to do to create that. And there's nothing we can do to stop it. Because you, beloved, are a living enterprise of God. This liquidity is constantly moving through you, raising you up to a new place. On St. Patrick's Day, we celebrate Patrick, who wasn't, by the way, always a saint. Anybody here always been a saint? Always knew you were a saint, did everything just saintly way? Raise your hand. I can't. Right? St. Patrick was born by the name of Maewyn. He was born in 385 CE, which is the Common Era. And he was captured when he was 15 years old. Just imagine yourself in this situation. He's a young man born in Britain, captured by the Irish marauders that came. They often came across the Channel or the North Sea to capture teens, to take them back, to enslave them. And he was one of them that was enslaved at the age of 15. When he was taken back, he was given the job of being a shepherd. And so he found himself, Maewyn, Patrick, up in the mountains, shepherding, being a herdsman, shepherding sheep. And when we look metaphysically at what thoughts are, they are sheep. It's those parts of us that can go off. Anybody here ever go off into a far field or a far country, and there's someone, a presence that's willing to hold the space to call you back, to keep you in that consciousness of safety. And this is where Patrick was. And for 6 years, essentially all he had was his inner life, which was in great turmoil from a human standpoint. And yet he went up into that mountain and he was willing to raise his antenna and pray with God. They say he prayed as many as 100 prayers a day. He would just pray. He had no one else to speak to except the Lord of himself, the inner child of himself. And so he herded those inner thoughts and meditated, and he was the one who found the shamrock, the three-leaf clover, and called it the shamrock. And it was for him a sign that the Trinity of God was always with him. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, which we, in terms of creation, in unity, and in metaphysics and new thought, say is mind, the great one mind from which all things come and all things go. Idea, the divine ideas that are, oh my gosh, they're just this enormous field of potentiality, and we grab an idea and then manifestation. So mind, idea, expression in our lives. You and I could have all kinds of thoughts right now. There's certainly a lot of media about the thoughts that we ought to be thinking or what we ought to believe that is true. And yet in this time, and I think it's causing this, we're all joining together. Isn't it incredible that it was just one thing that happened on the earth plane that caused us globally to prioritize human health? Globally to go, oh, stock market, whatever. Corporations, whatever. We're going to do what we need to do together beside each other, keeping whatever distance we need to keep to stay as healthy as possible as a population, to honor each other. And at the same time, our carbon footprint has shifted. All the things that we've been talking about for so long, how's this ever going to change on our earth plane? Boom, like that has been caused to change. It was in that transformative way that Patrick's life changed, because one day he heard an angel, which is essentially a divine idea, that appeared and told him how it was that he could escape Ireland and go back to Britain. And he did. It's actually said, your ship is ready. In other words, God is fully present. It's up to you. What are you going to do? And he went back to Britain and studied. He spiritually studied as you and I do. He studied. He was a student so that he might then accept himself as a teacher. He became a bishop. They didn't want to give him the assignment to go anywhere because he was kind of erratic. He was passionate, Patrick. That he wanted to go, and he wanted to go back to meet the call that was in his heart. And that was to face the very people that had imprisoned him, that had enslaved him. He wanted to go back to Ireland, and he did. He is responsible for a lot of the education that took place in those days. What was happening, though, was that he was being set free inside himself. And there's a story, of course, that he stood on a hill with a wooden staff, and he spoke the word, and all the snakes, all the temptations, the trials and the tribulations left. There were no more serpents in Ireland. And there are actually to this day many snakes in Ireland. What that meant was that he cleansed through knowing the truth. He set them free. All those funky ideas, the places where we're afraid, the forgetting of everything, being all right. He set them free so that he could stay centered and focused on God consciousness and help others do the same. So it's on St. Patrick's Day that we celebrate, really, the ability to cleanse our own minds, to cleanse the territory that we're in, and to remember that truth. It's a grace in that, isn't it? It's a coming back to life force. It's actually doing what Jesus said, to be as little children, to be in that fresh, green aspect of self, to be in your heart, so that in the wearing of the green, right, which we'll be doing on St. Patrick's Day perhaps, but the truth is that green is within you, it's the heart of you, that by wearing the green, you'll remember that there is a fresh spirit of God, the wholeness, the love that is viral in you and throughout our world, no matter what the conditions are of the earth plane. God is the one presence and one power active in your life and in the universe. God, the good, omnipotence. And so as you see people wearing green on St. Patrick's Day, they may be aware of it or not, but remember, God is giving you, through that, a green light to keep going in the direction you're going. To know the truth, and you don't have to tell people about it. You're here to study unity principles so that you'll remember there is one God. God is. Do this with me. It fits on one hand. God is. What does this mean, you guys, when you do this to somebody? We said, right? Everything's good, right? All is well. Tutto bene. So, God is, I am. This is like, I am, right? I am that divine spark of life, and I'm made in the image and likeness of God, like that. I am. The third one, don't put that finger out just by itself. Yep, that's right. Have it with all the others, and that is the thoughts that you're holding. Color your world. The thoughts held in mind, produced after their kind, they really influence everything. I think it's significant that is usually on a hand, the longest finger. What thoughts are you thinking? What are you holding right now? Because the world is squeezing us like lemons to see what we'll create, you know. And the fourth one, so we've got the three. The fourth is prayer. The fourth is I pray and I meditate to stay connected with that divine presence, right? And the fifth, that completes the hand, Jesus said the kingdom is at hand. The fifth is I live. So it is. God is. Repeat after me. God is. I am. I think. I pray. I live. Yeah, or I act. One of the two. So it's all well and good to know this stuff, but if you're not doing it, nothing's changing. Right? That's the fifth. We have to take action. So how do we take action? In a time like this, and I love that we sang the song about turning, and coming round right. We can pretend we're all ballet dancers. There's something that ballet dancers do, and I know you've seen them do it. They keep the same trajectory. So say that I am one, centering myself in God. Hello? Is that the divine calling? So I'm centering myself on God, and if I was a ballet dancer, I would spot, this is spotting, and I would watch that, whip my head around, and come right back to that point. In doing so, a ballet dancer could come straight from me to you and not lose their trajectory at all. To center, to turn, will be our delight. For in turning and turning, we come round right. This isn't a time that we have to be afraid of. It is a time for us to be aware. It is a time for us to do what we need to do on the earth plane, as Charlene was saying, and to center ourselves and be one with the divine. In a compassionate way, not to make anyone else wrong if they're feeling out of balance, but see them able to spin and to come back to true. See them, as you see yourself, able to practice the presence of God. Because with God, you know, as one of the scriptures says, with man it is impossible. Sometimes we just don't get it. Our minds just don't pick up what's really taking place, and what's really taking place is much bigger than what we think right now. It's much bigger than what we're seeing right now. And if God is good all the time, and that's a capital G, not good, bad, that is a good that is consistent, a substance, a presence, a power, a divine light from which we come and to which we go, then all you and I ever need to do is center. Look at the word center. It's see, enter. To see that from which you entered into this world, center yourself. To see that is where you're going. To see that the call is simply to be here, now, fully present. The Golden Key, anybody here know the Golden Key, Emmett Fox? Yeah. It's this little tiny pamphlet, and actually when you go out these doors right here, there are pamphlets on several shelves, and Emmett Fox's Golden Key is right there if you want it. They may have to order more copies. But it's really cool because in this, and I think it's the epicenter of that book, if you were to open it, there is an italicized sentence that boils the whole teaching down. And it says, stop thinking about the difficulty, whatever it is, and think about God instead. Boom. Stop thinking about the difficulty, whatever it is, and think about God instead. Like that. That's how you and I get transformed, by the renewing of our minds. And all that we're really being called to do is to be aware if we're going off center, if we're feeling off kilter, to come back to that truth. Diana Ross, do you remember the guru, Diana Ross, Swami Diana? But do you remember how she sang it? Stop in the name of love before you break my heart. Why would you do that? Just stop. In the name of love, stop. Think it all over. Think it all over. Stop. In the name of love, notice the truth. And be open and receptive like a little child to all the good things that are going to come from this. I'm very excited about it. My kids are very excited about it. Both my sons live in Brooklyn. They are both on Broadway. Broadway is dark right now. Nothing's cooking on Broadway. My oldest is like totally delighted that he even got Instagram. He went off it. He deleted his icon on his phone for Facebook and Instagram because he is self-quarantining for a month in his place. The beautiful homes that they have. They had somebody come in and clean everything completely. They have a rooftop they own together. My boys live, one owns the 3rd floor and one owns the 4th floor of a brownstone. Together they own the roof, and they're hanging for a month. One just had surgery on his foot. He's the ballet dancer. And when he comes back, and Broadway opens again, guess what he signed a contract to be in? MJ. Michael Jackson is going to be on Broadway when they reopen. But we don't know how things are going to reopen. We don't know with our human minds. I personally love that. Because when I figure things out with my own mind, it's usually far less than what really happens. It's never as great and as grand as what actually takes place. So you're going to hear a lot of people that are in upset because they just haven't heard the word. Your song spoke to that. But they're not heavy. They're your brothers. They're our brothers. They're our sisters. They are actually cells in the same Christed body with you and with me. And they have their own skills. They have their spiritual gifts. And they're going to bring them to bear. And this is the time that is causing all that to come forward. So as we can know that one with the other, can I just tell you how cool I think it is that Unity of Delray Beach is open today? Because Michael Beckwith, yes, hello, that was a decision, a prayerful decision, as Charlene described it, a prayerful decision to stay open. Let's just notice something. You guys are spaced out a whole lot more than you were if you went to Costco or Publix this week, right? Everybody's like, I gotta get all the toilet paper in the world, all the water in the world. But there is still a free flow of energy in your life. There is in this moment just a call to be who you are. And you're the very light of the world. So may you this week, today, this moment, know that you're just here to shine and to actually live the principles, and you know them already. It's not a unity thing. It's the essence of who you are because you're made in God's image and likeness. Would that you would remember that and simply come back to God. Bless you. Well, that's a perfect way to end. Amen. God bless you. Have a glorious week.